Hello everyone, my name is Mingming. I'm from grade 7 Lee House. The title of my talk today, as you might have noticed, is to stand up against it. But what we are standing up against to? So let me here tell you a story. This is my personal story, and I apologize that the content might be a little sensitive. But still, it was awkward for me to say some things, so I hope that you can support me a little. Months ago, I was in one of my tennis trainings outside of school, and there was one kid that followed me around all over the place and keeping a comfortably close position to me. Well, I feel like that what he's doing is wrong, and he kept pretending to accidentally brush his hands against my neck, legs, and other places that I do not prefer to be touched by. And so I told him several times that what he is doing is wrong. However, he go to his mother and told her that I was actually unkind to him. And so I finally decided I'm going to talk to him really seriously. And I told him that, look, what you're doing is wrong and rude, and that what you're doing is something that I do not prefer you to do. I hope that you can put an end to that. Moreover, if you continue to do this kind of thing to me, I'd have no choice but to tell the adults about what you have done. And so he stopped doing the stuff that he is doing, and we'd be able to continue our training. However, shockingly, similar things and way much serious abuses are happening all around the world. According to Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, over half of women has experienced sexual violence in their lifetime involving physical contact. Almost 1 in 3 men have experienced sexual violence in their lifetime involving physical contact. Moreover, according to Child Juvenile Center Art Culture Foundation, that in China, in 2016, there were 433 cases of sexual violence of children under 14 years old, and there are 778 child victims. In 2017, the media publicly reported 378 cases of sexual abuse of children under 14 years old, and there are 606 child victims. In 2018, the media publicly reported 317 cases of sexual violence of children under 18 years old, and there are 750 child victims. You might wonder that why those numbers are so high. It was because that these people do not stand up against it. According to the criminal justice system statistics, that worldwide, in 1,000 cases of sexual abuse, it was estimated that only 310 cases will be actually reported to the police. That means that there are only 30% of all cases. Imagine and think about it. Every single data that have been shown in this speech are actually the ones that are already reported to the police. Think about how many other young adults will be so petrified and hide their stories deep inside their hearts for the rest of their lifetime. Many more. Sexual assault is an ugly reality, and we must stop it. Hiding it obviously does not help. And so here's a system known as Stop SV that the Center of Disease Control and Prevention encourages us to use. S stands for promoting social norms that protect us against sexual violence. So here, I would like to tell you about an exhibition. And it was called What Were You Wearing? And in this exhibition, there are 18 pieces of clothing that our victims of sexual abuse are wearing when they have been sexually abused. In those, beside those 18 voluntarily donated clothes, there a short paragraph of what had happened and detailed explanation of that clothing. I remember one of those clothing said, it was a summer dress, and it said that months later, my mom was standing in front of my closet and complained how I never wore any of my dresses anymore. I was only 6 years old. And another was a police uniform, and it said that I have my police uniform on and I was armed, but that does not make any difference. We can clearly see from this exhibition that sexual violence has nothing to do with what kind of situations you're in or what kind of stuff that you're wearing and what's happening at that time. And so when we face with sexual violence, meet with victims of sexual violence, we shouldn't just go to them and say like, did you drink at the time? What happened? Did you scream and ask for help? What kind of clothes you're wearing? That is absolutely wrong. And T stands for teach skills to prevent sexual violence. We need to understand by fact that sex education is not a topic too sensitive for a child, and it is something that everyone should know, and the lack of knowledge and ignorance is the more serious topic. Nowadays, if children ask you, "Mom, Dad, where do babies come from?" and you still answer him or her with a story about the birds and bees, or if you say, "The stork bring them over," that is not the wisest answer, and that is not the rightest answer. And please, stop waiting for those tragedies to happen, to be exasperated, horrified, and petrified about this kind of accident. And sex education should not be a shameful topic, and we should not expect the children to understand about this naturally. Instead, we should do the following. From 0 to 2 years old, we need to teach the children in form of games about their own body. Make sure that they understand their own body and that they should protect their own body. From 2 to 3 years old, tell them about the genders and about the difference in genders. From 3 to 6 years old, we should tell them to keep social distances with other people, since at that period of time, children are going to step into kindergarten and they're going to step into their own little society. And from 6 to 10 years old, take every opportunity to seize that opportunity and explain with a scientific perspective to your children about what kind of stuff is this topic. And such as when a children ask you, "Where do babies come from?" See such opportunities as an important opportunity and explain to them. Or you can use picture books to assist with understanding. After the age of 10, children will enter puberty. And so during that time, they're going to be more curious about such topic. So sex education should be more straightforward and should be with a guided and populist mindset, positive with healthy and positive attitude. I hope all of us, parents and children, we should understand that sex education is not shameful. It is not terrifying, and that in the matter of sexual assault, the only people that are wrong are the abusers rather than the victims. Next, P, provide opportunities to empower and support victims. So here I would like to introduce to you a movie. It was called 嘉年华 Carnival. And that in that movie, when the mother realized that her child had been sexually abused, her first reaction, rather than comforting her daughter, was to slap her daughter. She threw away all her daughter's skirts and cut her daughter's hair short. When sex assault happens, what we should do is not to ignore the ones that are the attackers and to attack the victim. But that was such a common behavior. And we should give the victims an opportunity to talk to an adult or a person they trust without effort. And so if they cannot communicate with adults effectively, one day they're going to meet the judgmental stares of other people and questionings that can be as terrifying, as harmful as sexual assault itself. P, it means to provide protective environments by addressing areas that students feel less safe and to find safe areas and staff for the children to communicate with. And that can cultivate an environment of zero tolerance of such harassment and violence. So schools may increase safety and monitoring. Last, SV, support victims to lessen harms. When an assault happens, what we should not do is to treat the victim like you, the victim, are also guilty. Rather, we should support the victim, speak for the victim, care for the victim, and we can comfort the victims. We can use evidence-based therapies such as trauma-focused cognitive behavior therapy and assist the victims with addressing detrimental impacts of sexual violence, such post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and anxiety. Before I finish my talk, I would like to thank those who have stood up against it. Even though that we now know that it was the correct thing to do, However, it's so hard to overcome the trauma inside you and to step up and to tell about your past and history. You should be proud that you have done that. Thank you for your significant courage, and thank you for listening.